And why do we do this? We do this for the sake of neuroplasticity through prognostication. We are prophesying from a greater frequency to release into the world, really a dying,
narrative.
decaying world,
Yeah.
a greater narrative that we
Yes.
release the frequency of light, love, and truth
Yeah.
from the perspective of what the Spirit has shown us, that it would change. And in the measure that we are given, we welcome mutual consent and agreement
Yes.
for the purpose of establishing the portion.
Amen. That's good.
So now we're going to go back to, we've already talked about now the river, we filled it up, that was
Yep.
awesome, and now we're going to the Peresh, the strong Peresh, really cool. We're not going to linger here too long, but this is the strong mouth. Now we're talking, we see that this is in Damascus. I highly recommend that look into Damascus. It's really cool because it's really talking about the blood of the Father's fire that compresses. Damascus, broken down to the higher narrative, really says Dam Shin Kuf.
Yep.
Compress the blood that will turn into light if you compress it.
Absolutely.
That's-
And how do you do it? You go through the door of Mother and Father's teaching where the fire burns up that which needs to, so you can compress light, and it's sackcloth and ashes.
You're becoming sackcloth and ashes, and you're becoming, as we've already established, you're becoming a witness and a testimony, wearing, because you're completely consumed as light.
Yep.
These are the two witnesses.
Amen.
So I didn't want to go into Damascus, but I just did Damascus for you.
It's all right.
All right.
We can
And then
move
it's
on.
repetitive again. It says, and then Michael, and then we're back to Michael again. So now you're the completed mother, because you resonate to her frequency, and Kaf Lamed, as we know, roots at completed.
Right.
You're now the completed mother,
Right.
because you've answered the call of humility. I'm going to speak redundancies here for the purpose of
It's all right.
inculcation.
It's inculcation. Yeah,
Yes.
it's all good.
Okay, so then we're at Mimi Mother, and so now your water's below, water's above, and we know that Israel by definition means those that prevail.
Yep. Those who have been given the vision that have prevailed as El,
Right.
as the strong leaders of that have authority,
Right.
teaching shepherds.
So now you have the revelation in the verse in the Lord.
But before we go on, it's Yasher El.
Yasher
That
El.
was what I was sharing
Yes.
before, because Yasher means just and right.
Yes.
The just and right ones that are God.
Right.
Yasher El.
Right.
That's so big.
Right. And so we know you could translate that too as also the order of the Melchizedek, because that would be the righteous standing of
the king
kings
and
and
queens.
queens.
Yep.
Right. And there'll only be one order of that, because righteous does not fit onto any other degree. You can't associate righteous to unrighteousness.
Right.
You can be a king and a queen, but you can't be Melchizedek.
Right, because you have to have right doing.
It's all based on the
Well,
establishment.
and if you don't know what Zedek is,
Right.
Zedek,
it is a frequency of remembering which way you've already walked. So your
the
Zedek, the journey of righteousness, it can only be established through the journey of humility,
through the door of the inner man.
up the right-hand
Yep.
path of the mountain, winding up brain-heart coherence,
Yep.
to establish now on the throne, kicking off Satan and the nature of that's based off of
The beast ego.
off vanity and fear and egoic nature. You now place love and shalom and light on the throne,
Yep.
turning it right, now rightly aligned between mother and father, standing as one.
Melchizedek's.
Melchizedek. So, they could not. So Israel says could not, but from the greater narrative, you can actually say that no, that's not what it's saying. It's saying you have the revelation of nothing, which is, again, we know that this is 0 point. You have the revelation of everything now. You comprehend life and death.
Because you went through the teacher of light that showed you the way of one.
Absolutely. And that's,
Now delivering yourself of self.
Halo.
That was good.
I had to put that.
That
in
was
there.
for you, Dan.
That was for whoever has humor in this, because this is amazing, and
That's really
and it's a
good.
lot, but we got to break it up so fine. Because so everyone that can't see that, the word actually says it, because it's low, but because the hey is added, it's actually hello. So that's my humor. Okay, so they could wash in the nothings. Now they're washing, and they're washing now to be clean. So he turned and went away. But now we're just going to jump here because we've already spent a lot of time. So I want to focus on the word wash, because what we've already established through Manasseh being the twin bearing the fruit and what it's about.
You mean Ephraim?
Ephraim, sorry. Did I say Manasseh?
You did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgetting, and now remember. Manasseh. Ephraim. There we go. There's another funny for Dan. Okay.
Oh, we forgot. Wait a minute. Ephraim.
That's as quick as it comes. Okay, so now we know that the farpar is the river, and it has an added vav on the prefix. So now humility is the mouth that would speak the revelation of the top of the mountain, to then be established to speak the double measure, the double fruitfulness of this exact intention. You've joined two rivers to one, and we've already established that mother and father. The father was thought of and written, but never spoken ever. There's no verse with him in it, because you have to go through mother.
Amna instead of Abna.
Right.
So now the washing.
So let's go to the wash, and it's interesting that we're going to go in that verse. It's what number is it, Carrie? Can you see it there?
7364.
Okay, 7364. That means to wash off or away, and it's a primitive root. The whole or the part of a thing. Now that we know that twin means two parts that make up the whole.
Right.
So now the washing, and we're directly connecting this because the washing now is producing, because you're washing in the two, you've now established the one. So the two measures 1 to 1. So now we're washing the whole or a part of a thing. And if you look at the definition of twin, it means a part of two. And then you look at, but it still means a part of a whole that has been divided into two. And this is covenantal language. But if you look at the next occurrence of this word, it's Aramaic. It's spelled exactly the same way, Resh, Het, Zadi, and it means to trust. So now you have trust established in this in Aramaic, and this is probably through the idea of ministering as a servant at the bath. Now I'll tell you what bath is, as we already know. Bath in definition is bet tov.
Right, which is a measurement.
So you're trusting the measurement to become the measurement. And I can see this through the language because I already know what bat means.
Well, and I can even say that in the English narrative that we wash ourselves through the word.
Right.
So, I'm just connecting that dot. So this word here has an added aleph in front.
Yeah.
If the root is rakatz.
So you washed, and that's the point though, because it's the twinning. You've washed yourself in the way of one.
Got it.
So you've joined the two, mother, father, and now you've washed them and joined them as one.
Right, and then that very next word that they put in them, there is no Strong's.
Nope.
But they decided to put the word there, and most people don't know. It's to build ourselves.
Yep.
Through the revelation.
Of what has been sealed.
Through the waters that are above.
Right. So the hidden waters in Daniel, because I'll tell you that one occurrence, what I just said in trust, is only one occurrence, and it's in Daniel. What has been sealed?
Oh, until the time of the end?
Yes. So,
I just was sharing that.
So what has been sealed
was just sharing
is
that.
now
What
revealed.
Wow, from this morning.
That's what Daniel's all about. Daniel had to seal up what he already knew, and this is the seal.
Until the time of the end.
And the only way you can enter the sealed mem is to enter through the womb of the mother's open door. Through her, that's the bear in the vision. That's the bear. You have to enter in through that gate to resonate to her frequency. She will incubate you, turn you into the intention, and then free you for the journey upstream.
Which is the sheepfold.
And that's the only way you can enter the sealed mem.
Yep.
Because you have, and I'm not saying, like, I want to be careful here. You can do this if you comprehend the resonance of humility.
Right.
You can do it another way.
Right.
But regardless, the template is humility into the sealed chambers of meekness.
Yep.
That's I'm speaking condensed.
Well, we're only speaking it because this is a way that was presented to us.
Right, but I'm making grace for. I'm not saying this is the only way. No. I'm saying that I'm broad sorting a little bit to say humility. You have to enter humility to enter the chambers of meekness. They go hand in hand. They hold hands. Mem, yod, mem. Those are waters. Shemayim, the consuming fires. So, did you want to walk through this verse? Because you've already
Well, we're almost done.
Yeah, okay. So
But
so
I think it's great that the next word is clean, because tahar was like one of the very, very, very first things that we broke down of every single occurrence of this word.
Right. And yeah, right. So this is turning yourself
The
clean.
purity and innocence.
Right, because we also know that who can ascend the mountain?
Those who have clean hands and a pure heart.
So this is the cleaning of how you join. The cleaning is joining the twins as one.
Washing.
Washing.
Right.
Washing is another vernacular for building.
Exactly.
You've built the twins through the revelation of what was open, connecting that which is sealed.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's the washing.
And so the fullness of washing and knowing that you're clean is by being sealed in the Father's sine wave frequency, where he then can give you the power of his right hand.
Absolutely.
Because you've opened your hand to receive it, because your heart is to give.
Yes.
That is so...
In the gentle...
And this is the mountain of the wrestle.
Yes.
Right? Because it's a tet, har.
In the gentleness of receiving, we give generously.
Right.
It's a transactive language of holding a hand forward in receiving to ascend, but still holding a hand back for those who are behind you, so they can grasp what is being. That's why we're doing this. This is our hand back, so others can grasp.
Right.
Is it difficult? Heck yeah, it's been difficult for us.
Yeah.
But we never want to leave anyone behind. If there's a willingness, then we will make a way. So.
Hence why we're doing these videos.
So to be clean, right? A lot in that. And then let's go to, so he turned.
But again, before we move on that, it shows that you're going to wrestle.
Yes.
It's the tet. It's the mountain of wrestling.
And you're going to see in the bottom there what he's wrestling. Behemoth.
I saw that.
Right. So he's wrestling the nature, but it's got the added, we know that there's an added here. So so you're wrestling the nature. And I haven't got that down. I mean, you want to jump on the next word for me?
Yeah, the next word is weyapen, which it means turned.
Yep.
And this would be the word for panah.
Right.
But because that word, panah, the root has a risen noon.
Yeah.
So this turning, someone did not turn in the spiritual path. They turned because they chose
not to wash in the water.
To wash in the water, and they chose the material path.
Right. But we can also give a positive there. If you do choose to wash, then you'll wrestle the beast correctly, and therefore you'll prevail as Israel.
Exactly. Because you can take that back up the other way and say, well, this is how you become Yasharel.
And this is what people need
Israel.
to... Right, and they need to know this, that if it's wound up one way, you can unwind it for the perspective of greater.
Right.
And so even though it has a negative connotation, you can still see potential of a negative, and then go like, oh, if it's done that way, and then I reverse that, then I can establish the truth.
So in other words, it goes back to Bereshit. Choose.
Yeah, choose. This is all about
choose.
And that's the basis of the tet, is to be clean. It still is a vav tet. Humility is choice.
Exactly. Vav tet. Yeah.
Vav tet he resh tav yod. Humility is a choice.
Choosing to connect to Mother in humility, because you need to be taught. But in the process of that, you're going to wrestle.
You're going to wrestle.
You're going to wrestle the mountain.
You're going to wrestle the mountain.
Because it's the revelation of you being poor and destitute, so that you realize you have a destination. You got to climb the mountain.
I'll tell you right now, I know Mother's a mountain, and I'll tell you that if you're a stone, you are probably not going to prevail. That's a crushing force, because that is made to produce the mountain.
Right.
You cannot climb this. Yes, you climb it as a stone, but when you reach the top, you will become the mountain.
Right.
Say to that mountain, let it be moved. Right? And it will be removed, because you are the mountain. You resonate to the frequency of the mountain.
Yeah. Hence why, when you are established, you will not be shaken.
Right. So bring up the next. So went away.
And this is Yalak, which is interesting, because they could have put Helak.
Yeah.
But Yalak means walking and able to carry a load.
Right. You're bearing now.
Bearing a load.
Because there's a reason we're going to this, because it ties into the double measure where we're going, because this is all about bearing the load and the responsibility. This is
a double vision too.
Yeah.
So it's bearing the load of the twin visions that will produce a teacher of light in the earth that has the language, because it's a cough.
Yeah.
So they're in the material world, but you're bearing the load because you have the language of revelation.
Right, and the bearing is the grasping of, that's the cough. So that in the earth, you're grasping this and you're saying yes to it and going, wow, that is it a lofty thing?
Yeah.
Yes, purposely said. It's a lofty thing because you're comprehending the language of light and the ascension process of becoming the frequency of light.
And bearing the load also is because you have a great responsibility, because to whom much has been given, much is required. It's a hard load to bear at times because the chasm is so wide from those who have and then those who do not have, because it's really hard. The perspectives are so different.
Absolutely.
And so therefore it becomes in a way a burden when you're speaking to others to try to lift them up higher when they don't realize that there's a higher path to be taking.
Absolutely.
So then it becomes a burden.
Yep.
Although it's a blessing, it's still a burden when you try to talk to people that are in the waters of chaos. I know that firsthand with my family.
So when you look at the last word, what is it?
It's Bahama.
Right. Now, when you look at it, it's saying you're going to wrestle. Now, I can already connect this because when you look at its definition, it's talking about poison.
And anger.
Right. It's actually, I can just looking at one verse. There's a verse in Ezekiel 22:22.
I can see why you were saying baguette.
But so there is a poison that has caused us to forget that this is part of the bite. You can see it, that there's a venomous bite that is in the serpent has caused us to forget. And so by wrestling the remembering, this is part of, again, the negative entity is producing the negative definition of this word, rage. Mm-hmm. And the nations will rage, right? But that's not what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We're overcoming it through the brotherhood of mother becoming the exact revelation, because that's the frequency of what's being said. But if you build it, because this word has an added bet to it.
Yes, it does.
So then what it's saying then, in its raw form, is saying that he's give this individual can possibly give way to rage. But in this narrative, I can turn it to say, no, this person has built the covenantal house that stands upon rage.
Well, and in the root, this is what being hot is all about. And it also means to conceive.
Right.
It means to conceive.
And
that's why it's the language of duality.
Right.
So dependent upon how you see this, one can turn away in rage, or the other one can turn towards, receive what is being shared, and therefore you have now been impregnated with a vision of conceiving something and being birthed anew.
So let's talk about, yes.
Because this is the birthing of the new man.
Yes, so let's talk about that now. Let's talk about
being
this
born again.
Because the conceiving is, if you can't conceive the concept, then you'll never birth the concept.
Exactly.
Now, this ties into the noon again. The noons are swimming upriver, and we know in the Paleo Hebrew, the noon is really defined as sperm.
It looks exactly like a sperm or a sprout.
Right. So
from
we
a
know
seed. Same thing.
know that there's impregnation that produces that what needs to be born, and this is the bearing of the burden.
Exactly.
Because what we're doing is we are bearing the burden of responsibility and purpose of breaking down, rendering clear a very, I'm not going to say obfuscated, but it has been obfuscated by controllers, but nevertheless, it was found. That's the burden.
Yep.
It was conceived in a vision, and then our journey, processing through time, was to journey through, to then partner with that vision in the activity of life, swimming along, to then become it. So now we are now ingesting it.
Right.
We are now nurturing it.
Right.
We are now conceiving it, and now what we are doing right now, we are birthing it. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly, so that's good. So this needs to connect. If we can't connect it, then we have holes, and we don't want holes. And this is all based off the word washing, because if you can't join them, then you can't conceive the idea nor the vision.
No.
And so the washing is directly connected to conception, birthing, and then I'm going to take it down to the bearing of the twins becoming one again. Because mother and father are the twins.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the word washing. So we finished with that verse now, and now we're going to go to washing, and we've already established that through this word 7364, to wash away the whole or the part of a thing. So now we're washing the pieces, right? And this is now in Daniel 3:28, who put their trust in him. And same word, ministering. And then there's another word, 7367, and it is reksa, and it is a washing. Hey resh het zadi. So through the revelation of the headstone, you become the brotherhood of desire, or the desired brotherhood. That's exactly what this is through the paleo and through the frequency language. That's what it's saying. And I'm only skipping a stone. I'm not paragraphing this. I'm only trying to get somewhere. There's two occurrences of this verse, or this word, and it's in Song of Solomon 4:2 and Song of Solomon 6:6. Have come up from their washings.
Right, to come up higher.
And what did they come up with? Which came up from their washings, whereof everyone bare twins.
Wow.
The next verse, 6:6, which go up from the washing, whereof everyone beareth twins.
So, well, this is pretty fantastic, because we're bearing twins, which means in the process of birthing and conceiving, we are bearing the twin covenants as those that are marked.
We are, absolutely. But now think again about the dynamic of the twins. Just in the lesser narrative, we have Cain and Abel,
right?
And we also have Jacob and Esau,
right?
And I will crush your head
and bruise your
heel.
Right.
We're turning the principalities over, as we've already established, to turn the nature of taking the venomous bite of anger, turning it to the right measure, therefore becoming the head, and therefore we stand upon that which was over us. This is the turning of principalities and powers.
And this is because we begin to remember. And in our process of remembering, in being doubly fruitful, once we establish the sovereignty,
yes,
then it flips the principalities and powers.
So
because we overstand them.
Not finished establishing this yet. We're going to move through this slowly, because now we're establishing the washing, what it is. Now your washing is, like we've already established, it's now conception of bearing. You're washing, and therefore now you're bearing the weight of twins within you. What are the twins?
Mother and father.
Thank you, mother and father. Abana and Abana.
Yeah.
The twins now, one is spoken and one is written.
Abna and Amna.
These are the two rivers now that will become one olive, one river within you.
Right.
And as you reach the top of this mountain of one, out of your mouth will flow the river of one, mother and father.
Which is the Nakal, which is the river inheritance of the Nahar, of the being bright and sparkling.
Yes. So now you're the bright and sparkling. You become daylight now, and you're speaking of the river of light. So now you're bringing light back into the river, and you're becoming the gate that allowed you to come through for others. You now become as Michael. You've now become the likeness and the similitude of Michael. You've now become Yeshua in the earth, because you've reached the top, transfigured, become light, and now you've come back down as the teachers of light.
You are the guardians of Israel.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
It has to go to the completion of intention,
no, I get that.
Otherwise it's not. The whole vision of the bear in the mountain, aligning your heart to your head, is so you can see, open up the fountains of the deep, the pineal gland, unseat the enemy of the counterfeit of fear, doubt, confusion, empathy, despair,
chaos,
depression, all the negatives. Put love and light on the throne again, so the two hemispheres of your brain can be knit together as one. You've now opened the hippocampus. As Pegasus hits the fountains of the deep, it feeds from the root of the tree, from the heart, and out of the root of the tree speaketh the mouth. You now speak the language of light.
The living waters.
Absolutely. You are now bearing twins, and now we know the bear dance of the particular dance of that which dances joyfully, leaping and frolicking as the twin bears of mother and father, knit as one. You've now completed Kal-El, the journey. You've now become perfected.